right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, and probably the biggest story of the week, Hany Rambod officially retiring from coaching elite-level bodybuilders. If this Prague show wasn't already a big enough deal, it's an even bigger deal now. Not only is Chris making his open bodybuilding debut in Prague, but Hany Rambod, who has really become a legendary coach, arguably the greatest of all time, this is his last show that he is coaching an elite-level athlete for. So Hany put out this statement. He said, "This picture represents the most important people in my life and the selfless support that they have both offered me to be able to do what I do as a coach for Olympians on the greatest stage and in the greatest sport in the world. I owe them and you, the fans, so much over these past 30 years. And I wanted to say thank you. I've also had some time to reflect as I approach my 5th decade in life, and I've evaluated what's most important to me. My son is going to be 12 soon, and I truly want to be more involved in his activities and daily life, something my wife has mainly taken up on until this point. I don't want to miss any more moments. Coaching at the elite level has given me everything and allowed me to build this incredible life for Cam, Miss Naz, and myself, but has also taken away time, focus, and presence from them both. This Prague show will be my last as far as prepping elite athletes. I need to refocus my time and efforts on my family and shift into a bigger role of sharing my knowledge and experience from the past 30 years with more of you in the bodybuilding community. What's this change going to allow me to do? It's going to give me the opportunity to give back to the bodybuilding and fitness community in a much broader way. Coaching elite athletes at the highest level has narrowed my scope, but helping all level of athletes progress and is a passion that I want to go back to. I've realized that I never took the time to truly appreciate many of these hard-fought battles. All I knew was to chase the next championship. Now it feels like the right time to take a deep breath and enjoy the achievements, the journeys, the results, and the memories. These Olympia and Arnold preparations require a level of hyper-focus and mental bandwidth that most can't imagine. They occupy so much of my mind and time. To stay at that level, I am grateful to have done it for so many years, but now it's time to evolve and grow." So not only is this a really significant moment just because Hany is such a great and legendary coach, but also the ramifications of this are going to be felt in open bodybuilding tremendously. Elite-level athletes includes Derek Lunsford and Hadi Chupin, obviously also including Chris Bumstead, who appears to be retired and retiring officially after this Prague Pro. But Derek and Hadi represent 2/3 of the top 3 at the Mr. Olympia, and both of them have their own Mr. Olympia title. So the interesting thing will be is how will this impact Derek and Hadi going forward, who are still currently top 3 Olympians, both former Mr. Olympia champions. What are they going to look like next year? Who is their coach going to be? Are they going to continue to compete? Because honestly, Hany is the guy that got them there. And does this mean maybe the top 3 at the Olympia is going to significantly change, with the exception of Samson being your current Mr. Olympia? But it certainly feels like 2024 was the end of an era in bodybuilding. Not only Chris Bumstead, now Hany Rambod, one of the greatest coaches of all time. You've got a new Mr. Olympia champ, Samson Dauda. And next year you will have a new Classic Physique Olympia champ. And I just want to say on a personal note, Hany is one of the coolest, nicest, most generous dudes in the industry. And I'm glad to call him a friend, and I hope to still be able to hang out with him, every year at the Arnold Classic. So shout out to Hany Rambod, the end of a coaching era in bodybuilding. Now, speaking of Chris Bumstead, we got some more updates from Chris today. So today, Friday, would be technically 2 days out from the Prague Pro. The pro divisions are going to be on Sunday, the 17th. Today is the 15th, so these are 2 days out updates. Now, Chris looks like he's in shape. He looks fuller than he does before the Classic Physique Olympia. But I would say Chris probably weighs about 250 pounds in these updates. And again, he's 6'1". And I think, obviously, in updates like these, Chris looks very impressive on his own. And Chris's work kind of speaks for itself. We know what Chris has been able to do in Classic Physique. And I feel like because of that, people view Chris as like this unstoppable force when he competes. And I want to predict so badly that Chris is going to win this show, but I just feel like it's so unlikely that that's going to happen because, like I said, I think he weighs about 250 here. He weighed 260 like 2 or 3 weeks out from the show. But with his height, there's really going to be a difference. You're going to see guys in this lineup that are, lesser-known bodybuilders that are probably like 5'9", 250, 5'7", 250, 5'6", 240, and you're going to see quite the difference between Chris's physique and theirs. And that's what's going to be so interesting about this, is how does a guy that was invincible as a classic physique competitor, how does his size, how does his physique hold up against these open guys, is the big question that we're going to get to finally see answered with guys like Martin Fitzwater, even guys like Horse MD. Because as impressive as Chris looks on his own in these updates, and as invincible as he was in classic physique, we're just not going to know until we see him on stage next to these open guys. And like I said, I feel like anything could really happen. Chris could win this show. Chris could be top 3, or Chris could be outside of the top 10. And I honestly feel like it's so unpredictable that any of those results wouldn't really surprise me. I could see it going any of these different directions, just depending on how his size stacks up here. But I also kind of want to assume there's a little bit of extra effort on Hany's part, with this being, technically this is the last show Hany's ever going to prep an elite athlete for, so I feel like they're really leaving it all on the floor here. Even though it was a very short prep from the Olympia to this show, I'd like to imagine they kind of pulled out all the stops for this to really bring the best possible open version of Chris in the short amount of time that they've had. And I feel like if anybody could pull that off, it's the Chris and Hany combo. So I think I'm still going to stick with my prediction of Chris in second, and I still think that's a generous prediction. But now that Hany has also retired, I would kind of love the idea of Chris winning this thing, and then him and Hany both come out of retirement to prep for the Open Olympia, and I think that would kind of double the entertainment of that storyline. And I think Hany probably even recognizes that too, how impressive it would be if Chris won this show, got his Olympia qualification. I feel like it would, for both of them, probably feel like unfinished business to not enter Chris into the Open Olympia if he won this show. And I kind of imagine too, like how Chris has talked about maybe he'll get the itch to compete, and every year he feels like, he doesn't know if it's going to be his last year or not. He doesn't know how permanent his retirement is, etc. I feel like that same mentality could also apply to Hany. Maybe he does, really enjoy the time that he takes off and gets more time with his family and etc. But who's to say after, a year or two, Hany doesn't get that itch again to prep one more guy like Chris Bumstead, like Hany, or like Hady, like Derek. One thing that we've seen time and time again in bodybuilding is retirement does not last forever for a lot of these guys. Think about how many comebacks we've seen over the years. This doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% the end of Chris competing, 100% the end of Hany coaching. We've seen in bodybuilding, retirement doesn't last very long for a lot of guys. But I do hope for Hany's sake, he gets what he wants out of the retirement, gets to spend more time with his family. And the same with Chris. I hope if they do stay retired, they get exactly what they want out of that. More time with family. In Chris's case, maybe just more focus on health, not having to prep for the Olympia. But again, that fan side of me would like to see both of them come back, and I think the idea of it being a comeback makes it more exciting. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Where do you guys realistically think Chris is going to place at this Prague Pro? Now, next up in the news, we did get some recent updates from Horse MD. I believe one of these was yesterday and one of them was today. So 2 and 3 days out from the Prague Pro. And he actually looks really impressive. He was top 4 in Romania just a week ago. And I think he looks really good in these updates. And this is kind of going to be the challenge for Chris. Martin is one thing. Martin's a top 4 Olympian. But some of these guys like Horse, that, no disrespect, are probably more considered like a B-tier pro, as in, not top Olympians, not constantly winning shows. Horse looks really good here, and he's kind of established himself as an open guy. And he shares a lot of the same positive characteristics as Chris does when it comes to, a nice V-taper, an aesthetically pleasing physique for an open guy. But he's got some good size to him, and he comes in pretty good shape. And I would say maybe him and Chris would have the same weakness in open bodybuilding, is maybe not, both of them maybe not having the crazy density to their back. I mean, Chris has a ton of detail. He's got a great back for classic physique. But for open bodybuilding, it's something that Horse has struggled with, and I'm wondering how Chris is going to do with that as well. So they have some of the same strengths, I would say some of the same weaknesses. So I think even before you can address, can Chris beat Martin, you've got to look at guys like Horse that look really impressive. Can Chris even beat a guy like this? Because I think there's a lot of focus in this Prague show, because you've got, a classic physique 6-time Olympia champion. You've got a former 212 Mr. Olympia, Sean Clarita. You've got a top 4 open Olympian. There's a lot of focus on those 3 guys. But can Chris even beat a guy like Horse is another interesting thing that we're going to watch. What call-out will Chris be in? I think he'll be first call-out. I think he'll probably place higher than Sean Clarita. I think he's got a good shot at being top 2, top 3. But like I say, before we can address like Chris versus Martin, look at these updates from Horse. He's going to be tough to beat too, even for a guy like Chris. So it's tough to kind of take those blinders off when we talk about Chris and when we look at Chris, because again, for so many years, we viewed Chris as this like immovable object, this unstoppable classic physique guy. But he's out of his element here. He's in a different territory. And it's hard to look at him through the lens of he probably won't win this, and I get that. And next up in the news, the latest physique updates from Martin. I think when you look at these updates from Martin, you see how impressive he is. He's very complete. He's a great open bodybuilder. He proved that at his Olympia debut, top 4. And I think these updates look like he is on track to bring a package similar to or better than the package he brought at the Olympia. He looks like he's in really good shape, but he still looks really full. And like I said with the height thing earlier, Chris being 6'1", probably about 250. Martin's like 5'6", 5'7", and he's like mid 230s. I think Martin will probably look bigger than Chris, even though there's a 20-pound difference, 20-pound difference. Because of that height difference, that muscle on a smaller frame is going to look so different from that muscle on Chris's frame. And that's what I'm super excited to see, because we never get to see something like this. And as good as Martin looks in these updates, and looking back at his Olympia placing, again, just reiterating how impressive it would be if Chris actually won this show. It would be insane. This would be the most insane show of the year, just outside of the Olympia maybe. And I think with all these factors, this being Hany Rambod's last show too, I really do think top 3 biggest show of the year, the Olympia, the Arnold, and then Prague. I'm excited for this one, man. We kind of had the come down after the Olympia where things start to slow down a bit. And the excitement starts to get curtailed a little bit. But it almost feels like Olympia hype, Olympia build up to this show. The excitement's kind of coming back up, and it's going to reach a fever pitch in this Prague show. And it's fun to have a show after the Olympia when the excitement's dying down that still gets everybody in the industry talking. I think everybody's going to watch this show. I personally can't wait. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What are your predictions for the Prague Pro? Like, comment, subscribe, click that bell notification icon, all that good stuff. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NickStrengthPower. my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel, and consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.